Now it's time to move on to the essay of the advantages outweighing the disadvantages, which is much more difficult to write. For this essay, we will use the same topic. Some people think that it's beneficial for children to do paid work, while others think that it can be harmful for children. And here's the question: do you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? That is what you have to answer. Your whole essay is about answering this question. Now you can see I've put "you think" in brackets, and that's because IELTS might include those words, or they might not. The question might be, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? Now, whether they use the words or not, it's the same question. It's asking what you think. It is asking for a choice. Now, when we had what are the advantages and disadvantages, at no time did you need to choose which is more important. You just had to give the advantages, you gave the disadvantages, and your opinion did not matter. And that's called a simple essay. But this one is different because you're having to choose. Now, outweigh means, are the advantages more important than the disadvantages? So you have to make a decision, and that is your view, your opinion. So you have a choice. You think the advantages are more important than the disadvantages, or you might think the disadvantages are more important than the advantages. And you have to make a decision before you start writing your essay about what you think. And you decide that, and your whole essay will explain that. Now let's have a look at the essay structure and the content to see what similarities and differences there are with the previous essay. Now the first thing you're going to see is that we've got the same number of paragraphs. We've got the introduction, 2 body paragraphs and a conclusion. The introduction will still have a background statement which paraphrases the essay question. That will be exactly the same. The thesis statement, however, needs to give an answer to the question. So that will be different. The body paragraphs. Now we're still going to have the advantages in body paragraph number 1 and the disadvantages in body paragraph number 2. We've already planned our advantages, we've planned our disadvantages, so they're going to be the same. The topic sentences, however, will be a little bit different, and I've made just slight changes to the supporting points as well. The conclusion will be different because we've got to restate the opinion that we gave in the thesis statement. So you can see some similarities, some differences. On the whole, it's very, very similar, but the differences are important. So let's have a look now, and we're going to start with the introduction. The background statement is the same, so let's immediately go and see how to write the thesis statement. I've got 3 thesis statements to show you, and the first thesis statement is a big problem. So let's have a look at that now. In my opinion, the advantages and disadvantages are both important. Now, I have a lot of students asking me, with this type of essay, do I really need to choose if the advantages are more important or the disadvantages are more important? Well, the answer is yes. You can't decide that they're equally important. And the reason is that IELTS are giving you this type of question because they want to see how you make your choice, how you present your choice, and how you defend your choice. So if you decide they're equal, you're actually changing the type of essay that IELTS are giving you, and you will write what are the advantages and disadvantages. And of course that's not the question that you're given. So IELTS are giving you this question because they want to see you make and present a choice. So do not do that. Now we look at the other 2 thesis statements. Number 2, in my opinion, the drawbacks of children doing paid work greatly outweigh any benefits. This is a very clear answer. We've got in my opinion because we're making a choice, we're giving our view, so the examiner will be able to find the answer very quickly when you do that. We've got the drawbacks, so we've paraphrased the disadvantages. This thesis statement does use the same word that IELTS gave you, which is outweigh. It is okay to use it if you want, but with this thesis statement here, I've changed it, so I'll show you in a minute. We've also got children doing paid work greatly outweigh. You can use that if you want, if you feel strongly, or you can omit it, take it out, and just say the drawbacks outweigh any benefits. So that's one way to write it, and it is fine to do that. Let's have a look at number 3. In my opinion, I think that paid work can bring about more problems for children compared to any advantages it might bring. Again, we have got a very clear answer, which is there are more problems than advantages. And what else have we got? We've got in my opinion, so the examiner can find our answer. I think it's fine to use both. It's very natural in English to do that. Bring about more problems. Bring about means it creates, it causes more problems. We've got a comparison compared to any advantages that can occur. So we've got 2 possible thesis statements. Both of them are good, but I will choose this one for our essay. So now let's have a look at the whole introduction written together. The complete introduction paragraph. Although paid work is thought by some to be a good experience for children, other people think it can be detrimental. In my opinion, I think that paid work can bring about more problems for children compared to any advantages it might bring. So it's a very concise, focused introduction, 2 statements, one that introduces the topic, the essay question, and the other that gives an answer that explains which is more important than the other. So that's the introduction. Now we need to look at the body paragraphs, and we need to see how our opinion changes the way that we write the body paragraphs. Now, the ideas will be the same, but the wording, your way of presenting the ideas to support your opinion will change. So let's have a look at the first body paragraph. The first body paragraph. Admittedly, there are some basic benefits of children working for money. Firstly, children can develop an understanding of the value of money. This teaches them that money does not grow on trees and helps them appreciate the hard work needed to earn it. Secondly, they take the first steps in learning how to manage money. Many older children, for instance, have a part-time job in order to save for something they would otherwise be unable to afford. Understanding money management, furthermore, is useful when, as adults, they will need to balance their finances. So looking at this first body paragraph, how does it change? How is it different to the body paragraph we had in the other essay? Well, it is very similar. There are only some small changes, so let's have a look at what they are. The first one you're going to notice is the linking device that we've used to open the paragraph, and that's the word admittedly. In the other essay, you could use on the one hand, or on the other hand. You could use firstly to start the first advantage. But we are going to use admittedly for that. Now, this is an advantage-disadvantage essay with an opinion, and admittedly gives an opinion, which is when we say, I don't really think the advantages are very important, but I admit that there are some. So it's a very useful way to begin to show that we are writing the side that we don't really think is that important. Then we've got there are some basic benefits, and again we're stressing our opinion that we don't think they are so important. You can also notice one similarity is that we've got firstly and secondly. So that means we're using the same linking devices inside the paragraph to highlight the advantages that we're giving. Another difference is that we've only got 2 advantages. Now, when you have a topic sentence like this, we don't have so many words left to write the advantages. And each advantage does need to have supporting points, as you remember. So for this, it's best to have just 2 advantages and explain them in more detail. Another difference, well, you can see just a few differences. Firstly, here, I've got a new expression here for you. Money does not grow on trees. This is idiomatic English, and this is high band score. And it's one of the few idioms that we can use for academic writing. So it's absolutely fine, and it does mean that money isn't free. Also, you will see that I've added an extra supporting point to the second advantage, explaining about why money management is important in a child's future. So on the whole, when we look at it, there are only small differences. Now, before we move to the second body paragraph, the disadvantages which we support, I want to point out one more thing. A lot of people talk about paraphrasing the topic. Now, our topic is children working for money. So you can see here we've got children working for money. Now, how many times do you need to paraphrase that in your essay? Well, if you look more carefully, you will see that actually we're not paraphrasing it very often at all. When we start the first advantage, we haven't used it, and we talk about this teaches them. So when you refer back, it means that you don't need to paraphrase it. And this is one very useful way to avoid repeating information. Or if it's difficult to paraphrase, you don't take a chance with your paraphrasing, and you can refer to it as this. So don't worry too much about paraphrasing. Right, let's have a look at body paragraph number 2. The disadvantages. Nevertheless, despite the advantages above, I believe children could face serious drawbacks from paid work. One potentially dangerous problem is that it exposes them to exploitation through slave labour. In many countries that do not enforce child employment laws, they may end up working under extreme conditions or even in life-threatening situations for negligible wages. Starting life in this way makes it almost impossible for them to escape poverty as an adult. Another obvious issue is that working may affect a child's ability to focus on their schoolwork. This is a concern, as only with a strong academic performance can a child hope to advance as an adult. So, let's have a look at what is different and what is similar to the previous essay. Well, the topic sentence is completely different. The first word that we're using is nevertheless, and that has a similar meaning to however. And we use nevertheless because we're saying even though we've got some advantages, the disadvantages are more important. So it's a perfect way to begin this paragraph. And then we've got despite the advantages above, so saying even though we have them, this reinforces the opinion to have both. Now, some students might worry that we're repeating and we don't need to have both. Well, you can have one, nevertheless, or despite the advantages above, but having both is not repetitive. It is stressing your opinion. So it's absolutely fine to use. It's very good. And then we've got, I believe children could face serious drawbacks. So again, we're stressing that this is our opinion, and we're stressing that this is very serious. So we think these drawbacks are more important than the advantages. So again, this is all about supporting our view that we gave in the introduction. Then we go on to one potentially dangerous problem. So we don't say one problem, we say one potentially dangerous problem, stressing the importance of this problem. The supporting points are almost the same, but we've added working under extreme conditions or life-threatening situations, again stressing the importance of this disadvantage. And we've added one extra sentence to our supporting points, again to support our view that this is so important, by saying that when children start life by doing paid work, that is exploitation, it is almost impossible for them to escape poverty as an adult. So again, more information, more support for our views. The linking device, we've got one dangerous problem, another obvious issue. It's the same linking method, but we're adding extra words in to support our view. So another obvious issue, and then we've got about the schoolwork, and we still have one supporting point as well. So you can see we've got the same ideas, but our method of presenting is different. It's stronger, it's clearer. We are really making it sure that the examiner understands this is where our support lies. The final paragraph. In conclusion, being exploited or struggling with academic grades far outweighs any of the minor benefits that could result from children being involved in work experience. So the conclusion is restating which side we are mainly supporting. So we've mentioned the exploitation at work that children can experience. We've mentioned that there are problems with their academic performance. And we've got far outweighs. You don't need to use the word far, but it does stress an opinion. It far outweighs any of the minor, so we've repeated again that these are basic benefits and they're not so important. And then we've repeated the topic, which is children being involved in work experience. Now, the conclusion is one sentence. It's about 26 words, which is not long, but it's enough, and that's all you need to get even a band score 9. So now, before we look at the tips and we review the vocabulary, there is something else I'd like to look at. And the other point that I want to review with you relates to the third model essay that comes with this lesson. You will find attached to the lesson another model essay which is called the Alternative Outweigh model essay. And this is the model essay for when we agree that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, so the opposite opinion. And what I want to do is I want to quickly take a look at this essay and show you how it changes when we support the other side, the advantages. Now, the introduction is quite easy to do. The background statement is the same, and the thesis statement presents that you support the advantages instead of the disadvantages. But it's the body paragraphs I want to look at. So what I want to do now is take a look at body paragraph number 1 for the other view. So let's do that now. So let's see body paragraph number 1 to support the advantages. Despite the drawbacks below, I believe the benefits gained by children doing work experience are extremely useful for their future. Firstly, children can develop an understanding of the value of money. This is a crucial lesson to learn as it teaches them not to waste money by realising the amount of money needed to earn it. Secondly, children take their first steps in learning how to save and manage money. Take older children, for instance, who have a part-time job in order to save up for something they would otherwise be unable to afford. Learning money management is an essential skill later in life when they earn salaries and have bills to pay. So let's look at some of the changes that had to be made to support the advantages. Well, obviously the topic sentence is the main change. The topic sentence can't begin with nevertheless or however, because this is the first body paragraph. There's no information before to contrast with. So we can't use that to start our paragraph. But we can say, despite the drawbacks below. And if you want to make your opinion even clearer, you could put, despite the minimal drawbacks below. And that would be one way to show that we don't think the drawbacks are very important. You can see we've got I believe the benefits gained. So again, stressing our opinion. We've got extremely useful. Extremely gives a very strong opinion. Very. So very useful to have. Another difference is that we've added a little bit more opinion in. This is subtly done, which means it's not that obvious. It's just changing the odd word to make the argument stronger. So you can see here we've talked about this is a crucial lesson. Again, it means very important. Or further down here, we've got this is an essential skill. Very important. So it's just small changes. I've also changed this sentence here to show you another way to give the same example by changing the grammar a little bit. But if we look at the similarities, we've got the same advantages and the same supporting points, more or less. And the linking devices that we use, firstly, secondly, are also the same. So those are the changes and those are the things that stay the same. Let's have a look now at the other body paragraph, and let's have a look how we can write the disadvantages when we don't think they are so important. And that's quite difficult to write because obviously children being exploited and put in dangerous situations is a very serious problem. So we have to show that it's still not important. So let's have a look at how to do that. The disadvantages. Admittedly, there are some issues involved when children do paid work. One problem is that it might expose them to exploitation through slave labour. For example, in some developing countries, children are made to work full-time, but due to their age are not protected by law. However, this situation is rare, only happening in certain countries. Another negative aspect is that the time children spend working could prevent them from focusing on their schoolwork. Having a good education is the key to a successful future. So if work interferes with their academic performance, this can be a problem. So let's have a look at how this body paragraph differs from the previous essay when we had the disadvantages. Well, the topic sentence is different. We start with admittedly, because again, this is the side that we think is less important. The topic sentence says there are some issues involved. So we are showing the examiner that we're talking about the disadvantages. And we haven't said minor issues or basic issues. We've said some. Now, there's a reason for that. If you use the word minor, it's because you're saying that they really are not serious. But if you look at the examples we've got for the disadvantages, we've got exploitation through slave labour. It's not possible for us to say that this is not a serious issue. So therefore we cannot use the word minor or basic for this body paragraph. It's very important that you do use the right language which reflects the ideas that you're using. So instead we've just got some issues. And then we've got involved when children do paid work. Again, we're introducing the topic, the subject of this paragraph. So it's about the disadvantages, it's about children doing paid work, and admittedly shows that this is the side we think is less important. Now, looking at the other linking, we've got one problem, another negative aspect. So again, the examiner can see very clearly that we've got two disadvantages in this paragraph. The other change that we've got is with grammar. Now, what we've done is saying that one problem is that it might expose them to. And saying might means that there is a possibility this won't happen. So changing it and using probability for your grammar is very important because it understates these ideas and it shows that really they are less important because we don't know if they will happen or not. So it might expose them to exploitation. Another example is that the time children spend working could prevent them from. And again, this is using probability. It could. We don't know if it will or not. So use the grammar to help you as well. So let's carry on. So the idea of exploitation. We've got the same example, which is for example, in some developing countries, children are made to work full-time, but due to their age are not protected by law. So that's the same supporting point, but I've added another sentence. And the reason is that, as I said, this is a serious problem. slave labour is a terrible issue worldwide. So we do need to show the reason that we're not supporting the disadvantages, because we're actually supporting the advantages in this one. So we've got, however, this situation is rare, which means it doesn't happen often. And we've got only happening in certain countries. So it only happens sometimes, occasionally, and it only happens in particular countries, not all countries. And this is the sentence that really explains why we don't think the disadvantages are so important. So remember, it's not about just your ideas, it's about how you present them. And for the outweigh essay, it's about how you present your ideas to support your opinion. So that is the sentence that truly supports our opinion. And then we carry on. We've got another negative aspect, is that the time children spend working could prevent them from focusing on their schoolwork. And we've got, it's the key to a successful future. So if it interferes with their academic performance, it could be a problem. But again, we've got if it interferes, not that it will interfere, but maybe it will interfere. So you can see that there are some differences with this body paragraph, but they're small differences. Small, but very important for a high band score. So if you look at the model essay, the alternative model, and you look at the conclusion, which is the last paragraph, you see that it contains the opinion restated. So that is the full model essay when we agree with the advantages rather than the disadvantages. Right, so those are all the essays. Now it's time to review tips and then vocabulary.